It was Christmas in 1806. The French Emperor Napoleon Bonaparte was camped with his army near the Polish castle of Pultusk, on the shores of the river Neru, some 43 miles north of Warsaw. He was at the height of his power. 1 year earlier, his great victory at Austerlitz and the following Treaty of Pressburg had allowed him to extend his control to cover almost the whole of Europe. That August, the Confederation of the Rhine had decreed at a gathering in Regensburg the entrance of the various German states into the French political orbit, putting an end to the 1,000-year history of the Holy Roman Empire. Again, on October 14, he had inflicted a morally and materially shattering defeat on the Prussian army in the neighborhood of a town called Jena. Now he was preparing to meet the Russian troops, who had enlisted to stop his worrisome advance into Polish land. They, too, were to suffer a mighty defeat at Pultusk, on St. Stephen's Day, Boxing Day. But at this moment, the situation was still serious. The French troops were frightened by the cold and lack of supplies, and yet the Emperor was taking a bit of time to deal with a matter that clearly concerned him. The Emperor kept thinking of a tragedy titled Les Templiers, written by a fellow Frenchman named François Renoir, a lawyer of Provençal origin with a passion for history. The play covered the grim events of the trial ordered by the King of France, Philip IV, the Fair, against the most powerful monastic and military order of the Middle Ages, the Poor Fellow Soldiers of Christ, better known as the Templars. The tragedy described the unjust destruction of this order of knight monks, who were also clever diplomats and expert bankers, and, in Renoir's view, the innocent victims of the French king who had treacherously assaulted them to make himself master of their wealth. The Emperor had not liked the play, first because Napoleon, having crowned himself emperor in Notre Dame Cathedral on December 2, 1804, in the presence of Pope Pius VII, saw himself as the moral heir of the charisma of the French sovereigns of the Dark and Middle Ages, along with the consecrated oil that, according to legend, had been miraculously brought down from heaven by a white dove during the baptism of King Clovis. Napoleon found the cynical and cruel depiction of Philip the Fair really out of place. Above all, though, Renoir had mercilessly disappointed the solid beliefs felt by a whole culture, of which Napoleon himself was an illustrious representative, about that celebrated order of monks who carried swords so suddenly fallen from the height of power, wealth, and prestige into ruin and the disgraceful charge of heresy. It was an adventurous story, full of mysteries and hints of dark things, and it was magnetically attractive to the rising romantic taste, glad to color everything with touches of the irrational. The Emperor was a pragmatic soul, and his interest in the affair was wholly different. The doom of the Templars had been, in its time, the herald of a clear political plan, and paradoxically, it went on being so, although the issue was 5 centuries old. That fanciful, nostalgic way of looking at the ancient military order had appeared in Europe in the early years of the 18th century, born of the encounter between a genuine desire to renew society and a not wholly objective reading of history. By the end of the 1600s, all Western countries had a bourgeoisie that had grown rich on trade and the beginnings of industrial production, amassed genuine fortunes, and given their children the best educations along with the children of the most ancient nobility. Wealthy and highly prepared, the members of this emerging social group felt ready to take part in the governance of the country, but rarely achieved it because society was still structured in the ancient fashion, in a stiff and closed system that concentrated political power in the hands of the aristocracy.